represent ourselves.
What's up, everybody? Welcome in to another edition of the Fun and Games Friday here at the Sac City Podcast. I'm your host, the one and only Vinny Milani, joined by my best friend in the whole entire world, Aaron the Mukesiah Mukes. It is a beautiful March 11th evening here at the city. Episode 5 is underway. We've got a great show ahead of us. It's getting down to predictions here. We had a lot of prediction shows during the regular season. We decided to bring it back one more time before we kind of put a kibosh to all the predictions. Well, mock draft season's coming up, so there's going to be tons of predictions. Either way, great show ahead of us. Aaron, how's it going, buddy?
Listen, episode 5 already. It goes fast. We're going to be at episode 100 for the city here in no time, and we know how big we do episode 100. So I'm excited about that. Fun and Games Friday. Just you and I tonight. Obviously, the other two gentlemen are busy doing their thing, but we got a good show. We're going to talk a lot about the breaking news this week and a lot of news and notes, right? A lot of things happened around the NFL. I'm excited to talk about it, let everybody know where I stand on it, and then get into these free agency targets. Where are these players going to end up, and is your team going to benefit from these players? I'm excited to let people know who's going to be on their team next year. Yeah,
let me actually ask you that. We're obviously going to get into some news and notes. We're going to get into all that, but let me ask you that question right off the jump. What team in the NFL, this is completely off the dome here, what team in the league needs to be the most aggressive this year in free agency?
It depends how you define aggressive. The easy answer here is the Cincinnati Bengals, right? You have $1 million in cap space, a ton of cap space. You get an offensive line that obviously struggled in the Super Bowl, but you were just in the Super Bowl. And if you bring a few pieces back and you go out and you address that offensive line, you can find yourself repeating as the AFC champions. So I'm going to start there. I'm going to say the Cincinnati Bengals should be on the phone. They should be working their sources, trying to get whatever holes filled that they can, because obviously when they're playing at their best, they're one of the best teams in football, and they proved that last year. So I look to the Cincinnati Bengals to be super aggressive with all that cap space, unlike some other teams that are a little bit handcuffed by the salary cap.
Yeah, it's like we talk about like the parity in the league and how there's so many good teams. There's a lot of teams that have cap space, and then there's also a lot of teams that are really grinding with the cap here. What's the number this year? What I remember they set the number was like a little over 200, right? A little over
208. And there's some teams that still have to get underneath the salary cap before the new league year starts next week, but we've mentioned this before. The salary cap is more of a guideline. They find ways to restructure contracts, and they have some really smart people, far smarter than I am, that know how to work these contracts and kind of finagle the numbers to get these teams where they need to be. I have no doubt most teams will be under the cap and still be able to go out and address free agency. And then again, just being creative with the way they structure the new deals to allow them to still add significant pieces. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today when I bring up some of my predictions and how these teams will be able to afford these players.
Yeah, we talked about it all on, I think it was Monday's show. There's two things that the NFL teams and the NFL can get around. It's COVID. When they want to get around that, they'll get around it. And money. When they want to get around that, they will sure as hell get around that. Let's get into the news and some headlines. Let's not even the news and nugs. It's headlines all week this week. Today was really taken over by one Desean Watson. We all had him marked down on our calendars that Desean Watson was going to have his court hearing today to decide whether or not he was going to be charged, he was being accused of sexual misconduct. The grand jury today stated that he will not face any criminal charges. Desean Watson is a free man, and now we are on Watson watch. What are your thoughts on now him being a free man and what the Houston Texans do from here?
It took a long time, right? We've seen the reports over the course of a year now kind of filter out, and they had to get things situated, and finally got into court. And then today we got a little bit of clarity. It's the first step to getting Desean Watson back on the football field. And I don't want to come on here and talk about whether the alleged assault or whatever misconduct took place or not. All we can do is take what we have, the information that we've been given. And the fact is they're not indicting him on criminal charges. So that does allow him to kind of proceed forward now with his NFL career. Now, by no means does this mean he's free and clear from any repercussions that the NFL may want to decide to lay down on him. But this does give teams a little bit of hope. Obviously, you're not looking at jail time or anything like that. So teams can start being a little bit more aggressive, the ones that are interested in kind of pursuing him. So I expect that market to ramp up over the next few days, especially with free agency hitting. The draft coming up, teams are going to be kind of excited to get that quarterback on their roster. So, and he's one of the best quarterbacks in football when he plays. So I expect there to be a big market for him. There's a number of teams that could use him. We talked about the Indianapolis Colts, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Carolina Panthers. Don't forget the 49ers had links to him last year. There are some teams out there that are going to be going after Desean Watson. And now you get with the Russell Wilson trade, you get Seattle back in the mix. So I'm excited for that whole thing to play out. But we still have to wait and see what the NFL does. They're still doing their investigation. And it would not shock me if there's still a suspension that's handed down on some level, whether that's 6 games, 10 games, a year, three games. We don't know, right? We've never seen really this happen to this extent. So I'm interested to see what happens with the NFL and whether they decide to take action or not. But these next couple of weeks are going to be really, really fun when it comes to Desean Watson talk.
Oh yeah. Like I said, we are now on Watson watch, keeping an eye on where he is going to end up, because it's funny. I remember last year thinking to myself, man, Houston really messed up by not trading Desean Watson when they had the chance. And now I feel like we're back at that same position. Like I shouldn't say we're back at the same position that they messed up, but I feel like we've now reset the clock here for Houston. I feel like everyone is now like, we went through the timeline of, okay, they have a ton of value to trade for Desean Watson. They can get a ton of picks, a ton of prospects, whatever it may be, they can get it all. And then as the draft progressed and we got past it, we're like, man, Houston's losing value by the day. I feel like we've reset ourselves now, because because there's talks now going around that Seattle's in the mix, and they might offer exactly what they gave up for Russell Wilson, or exactly what they got in return for Russell Wilson with all the first round picks and everything like that. So do you feel that way as well with like, I feel like it all's reset?
I do think the market's back. I know there was talks, a team that has kind of said they've gone away, which was the Miami Dolphins. It wouldn't shock me if they tried to stick their nose back in it. Now, I know Chris Greer and them over there, they really like Tua, and that's part of the reason why Flores is gone. But you have to take this for what it is. You have to look at the talent of Desean Watson, look at your organization and your franchise and who you have at the quarterback position, and say, can we upgrade? And if so, what do we have to give up in order to make that happen? I think any team right now would be doing a disservice to themselves if they weren't looking at Desean Watson if they were in need of a quarterback. So I think all of those teams you mentioned, and then some maybe that we haven't even thought about, should be in on Desean Watson and should be at least kicking the tires to see if there's something that can get done.
Yep. Yeah. And we will be locked in on all the Watson news throughout this entire time that it goes on. It should be quick. Honestly, I'm expecting Monday. We're talking about where Desean Watson is and what his impact on his new team is. But if you want to really be locked and loaded on our Desean Watson watch, head on over to the Sac City Pod on TikTok, because our reaction videos are on there. We're putting out exclusive content that you cannot get anywhere else. So head on over to the Sac City Pod on TikTok for more fun conversations about Desean Watson and more. Another trade happened on Thursday. The Los Angeles Chargers are sending a second-round pick and a sixth-round pick, a 2022 second-round pick, and a 2023 sixth-round pick to the Chicago Bears in return for Khalil Mack. Now we get to see Khalil Mack join the Chargers with him and Joey Bosa. The NFC West is just an absolute race, an absolute dogfight right now, jockeying for position. The Chargers answer back by trading for Khalil Mack. What were your instant reactions to this deal for the Chargers?
It's what they needed. This is an arms race right now in the AFC West. The fact of the matter is the quarterbacks that are in that division now. How do you counter that? Well, you counter it with the pass rush. So the Chargers went out and said, you know what? Our defense has been weak over the past couple of seasons. Let's go out and get one of the better pass rushers in football. Many people will say he's past his prime. He hasn't played as well over the past couple of seasons. But when you're playing in Chicago and they've been kind of down, those things can happen. Khalil Mack is an elite pass rusher. And now you're on the opposite side of another elite pass rusher. You can only, it's only good things from here. I think that's a good tandem. And now you're looking at a tandem that's going to have to get after guys like Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson and then Derek Carr. So I like it for the Chargers. I think it's a step in the right direction for what they need most, which is defense. And I look for them to also add a few other pieces in free agency to kind of bolster up that defense as we go forward here in the AFC West. And again, this is going to be probably the toughest division in football. It's going to shift from the NFC West to the AFC West in a matter of a year. And it's crazy how that's going to happen. But you look at those 4 teams, and all 4 of those teams could easily be in the playoffs next year. It's going to be fun to watch.
Oh yeah, it is. Last year, like you said, last year we were watching the NFC West. Now it's all about the AFC West. One last question on Mac: was it enough? Was that the right price for Khalil Mack, a 2nd and a 6th, or do you think Chicago could have searched for a 1st-round pick for Khalil Mack?
Oh, no way. Okay. Nobody's giving up a 1st-round pick for a 31-year-old, pass rusher who, again, I don't think he's kind of gone downhill like people say, but his production has been a little bit less over the past couple of seasons. Obviously, last year he got injured, didn't play very much. The year before that, he did play all 16 games, but he only had 9 sacks. He hasn't had double-digit sacks since 2018, where he was a first-team All-Pro. Do I think he could get back to that level? Probably not. Yeah. But could he be a Pro Bowl pass rusher again? Absolutely. He was 2 years ago. So I think he can get to that level and he can still contribute, and he still has a few years left. So I think that's a scary defensive line, but I think they got the right price for him.
You know what I could see, and I don't want to make this exact comparison, but I'm going to what they had in Los Angeles. And obviously there's no Aaron Donald in what I said. What happened with the Rams, and I got to be specific here, talking about both Los Angeles teams in the same sentence, in the same conversation. What happened with the Rams? You had Aaron Donald, and then you bring in Von Miller, and Von Miller is going to be able to get to the quarterback because they're double teaming Aaron Donald. What could happen here is double teams to either Joey Bosa or Khalil Mack, and one is freeing up the other here. So it's a very good situation for the Los Angeles Chargers, especially with all those good quarterbacks now in that division. Another trade, and you know what? Let's go here. Our fans are clamoring for us and dying for us to talk about this. We were unfortunately not able to talk about the Denver Broncos Seattle Seahawks trade on Wednesday's show, so we're here tonight to do so. The Seattle Seahawks, if you live under a rock, got rid of and dealt away Russell Wilson and got a whole hell of a lot. You see it here. 1st-round picks, 2nd-round picks, 5th-round picks. Noah Fant, Shelby Harris, Drew Lock. A massive haul for the Seattle Seahawks. In return, the Broncos get Russell Wilson and a 2022 4th-round pick. When this deal popped up on your Twitter feed, Aaron, what was going through your mind?
Shock, because you don't see big time quarterbacks getting traded in the NFL. So I was shocked because of that. But when we got the news of Aaron Rodgers, I knew Denver was going to have to do something to bring that quarterback position back to where they want it. And this is very similar to when they brought in Peyton Manning, right? A veteran quarterback who they feel can take them and lead them to a championship. Russell Wilson, to me, is the guy for Denver. You can talk about the Aaron Rodgers and how that would have fit there with Nathaniel Hackett and the familiarity and how good that would have been. But I kind of like the Russell Wilson fit here. I like the Russell Wilson fit with Javonte Williams. I like the Russell Wilson fit with the type of weapons they have on the outside. They got a guy in Jerry Jeudy who's a route running technician. And then they got big play guys like Cortland Sutton and then Tim Patrick has signed a new contract. So they got weapons. They like Albert O as a tight end, which is why they were able to move on from a Noah Fant. And then their offensive line starting to come together. They can add a little bit of pieces there. And you already know they had one of the top defenses last year when they were playing. So I like the fit here with Russell Wilson. And I also like it for Seattle. I think Seattle got the right price for him. I think it was time for them to move on. And everybody's talking about, Denver's going all in. Denver's going all in. Well, yeah, every team that acquires a probably future Hall of Fame, all-pro quarterback is going all in. These teams don't want to sit here and pay this quarterback all this money and not be trying to win Super Bowls. So when teams are saying they sold the farm, well, yeah, of course they sold the farm for him because they are trying to win now in the next 2 or 3 years. And is it going to work? Maybe not. Maybe they don't win a Super Bowl because they got the Chargers and the Raiders and the Chiefs there. But it's something that they had to do with the team that they have constructed right now, their cap space, their ability to maneuver because they've got good young players that they haven't paid yet. I think it's the right time for them. And you know, good for them. They're making a move, and I think it's going to work.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl, but
no.
I do think it's going to work in being successful where they haven't been over the past few years.
Do you think that there's that? I hate asking this question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Do you think if Russell Wilson doesn't win a Super Bowl in Denver, I don't want to say his resume, but his resume do you think it gets a little tarnished because we're now in the reality of you go to a new team. I mean, you saw it with Stafford, you saw it with Tom Brady. Originally, it happened with Peyton Manning with the Denver Broncos team. If Russell Wilson can't get that Super Bowl ring here in Denver, how does that affect Russell Wilson's legacy?
I think it depends. I don't think it's about the ring. I said this over and over. Getting a ring is hard, right? One team wins it a year. So there's going to be some quarterbacks that are really great that don't win. I think it's about making them relevant. So Russell Wilson's 32 years old, 33 years old. He could play another 7-8 years in this league. If he takes Denver to AFC championship games, maybe gets to a Super Bowl, but ultimately just doesn't win one, I don't think we're questioning the greatness of Russell Wilson. I think he's still going to be considered a great quarterback. To me, it's more about, can you find that consistency within an organization that hasn't been very good since Peyton Manning left and hasn't been able to find a quarterback. So if they're in the playoffs every year and they're fighting and they're in contention, I think that's what we're looking for, and give them opportunities to perhaps win a Super Bowl. To me, that means more than just, oh, I went to a Super Bowl 1 year, I won it, and then you're not good for 5 years. To me, I'd rather have the consistency, and I think that's what Russell Wilson's going to do. We're talking about a guy who's had one losing season his entire career, who's had one other season where he didn't win double-digit games. He is a winner, and regardless of whether you like him or not, I think he's going to win in Denver.
I'll ask one last question. It's a very simple question. We're going to be talking we're going to be going into a lot of fantasy coverage in the coming weeks of this off season. Who is impacted the most in this entire deal? Even on the Seattle side, even on the Denver. Give me one from Denver. Give me one from Seattle. Impacted the most.
Currently constructed right now, the biggest person that's impacted is Tyler Lockett. And I say that because Tyler Lockett and Russell Wilson had a connection that is not like most. You bring in another good quarterback, you can find it. The way Russell Wilson throws the deep ball, the way Tyler Lockett adjusted to those deep balls, I think his value takes a tremendous hit as it stands right now, barring, them getting a quarterback. And on the Denver side of the football, you're looking at those wideouts, all of them. Jerry Jeudy, barring health, should be a man.
Jerry Jeudy with Russell Wilson will be a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL.
He very well could be. That is very true. I like Jerry Jeudy. And then you still have the big playmaking of a Cortland Sutton when Russell Wilson, who has a great deep ball. I wanted to bring something up, though, before we move on, just because I think it's appropriate. I've been seeing a lot of news, and everybody's been ranking the quarterbacks now in that division, and they've been ranking it, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Russell Wilson, and Derek Carr.
Yep.
And I've seen that's pretty much the order everybody's had. And I just want to tell everybody they're wrong. The people that are putting Justin Herbert right now ahead of Russell Wilson it blows my mind why they would do that. And I get it because of last year and the flashiness in which he's done it. But I want to throw out some numbers, and I wrote them down, so I'm going to read. This is the comparison we are making for a guy who we now say is third in the division. Russell Wilson is 104 at 53-1 all-time record. Justin Herbert's 15-17. In 2020, Russell Wilson, in 558 attempts, threw for 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns. Justin Herbert last year, his best year, he had 672 attempts, which is over 100 more. He threw for 5,000 yards, but only 38 touchdowns. Twice in his career, Justin Herbert is throwing double-digit interceptions both years. Russell Wilson's done that 4 times in his 10-year career, or 8-year career. I'm sorry, 4 times in his 9-year career. Quarterback rating, last 4 years, Russell Wilson's been over 100. Justin Herbert's never had 100 quarterback rating, and they're both around 65, 66% completion percentage. We need to stop with comparing Justin Herbert, putting Justin Herbert above Russell Wilson right now. Justin Herbert's had 2 good years for a young quarterback, but I'm sorry, he's closer to Derek Carr than he is to Russell Wilson. And in my order, it's obviously Mahomes, it's Russell Wilson, it's Justin Herbert, and Derek Carr is right there. And the reason I give it to Herbert, obviously, is because he throws far more touchdowns than Derek Carr. But even those numbers, Derek Carr's numbers are very close to Justin Herbert's outside of the touchdown numbers. I think we're getting in love with the shiny new toy, and we need to go back and think about what Russell Wilson has really done in this league, besides last year when he was hurt and, obviously things didn't go his way.
And something that really caught my eye here, and it's maybe not caught my eyes in a good thing, but Russell Wilson is only 33 years old. Like in today's
NFL, that's your prime. As a quarterback.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it feels like Russell Wilson has been in the NFL for a long time. We've seen a lot of Russell Wilson. I mean, we've seen him in Super Bowls. We've seen him go through a lot. And we talk about him in the same sense of like a Rodgers or a Brady. Like when we group those quarterbacks together, Russell Wilson is normally thrown in that conversation of like these older veteran quarterbacks, and he's only 33 years old. So it's like there is still so much left of Russell Wilson that we're going to see in a Denver Broncos uniform now. So
he's younger than Matt Stafford. So he's younger than Matt Stafford, who just went to a new team and won the Super Bowl. Yep. And now you're bringing in Russell Wilson, who's accomplished more than Matt Stafford. And he's going to a new team that very well could be in contention for a Super Bowl next year. I just think that was a great fit for Denver and good for them.
Yeah, very good move. On the other hand, there was one other big news, and again, we're going to be getting into our free agency predictions in just a few moments, but there was one other big piece of news that happened on Tuesday that you did not get a chance to talk about. It was the Carson Wentz trade that sent Carson Wentz and a second-round pick to the Washington Commanders in exchange for a second-round pick in this year's draft, a third-round pick in this year's draft, and a third-round pick in next year's draft. Oh man, Aaron, this was something that you're probably buzzing on, right? This trade, and I want to repeat something I said before you even go. And I'm sorry, I got to say this. What you just talked about, and what we just talked about with the Denver Broncos team getting Russell Wilson. I said this on Wednesday. I'll say this again. The Denver Broncos are close to being a Super Bowl team. They're close to being a real deal contender. All they needed was a quarterback. That statement was true. The Washington Commanders say that they are one quarterback away, but they're really not one quarterback away. And you're damn sure not a one quarterback away, and your solution being the Band-Aid of Carson Wentz. Proceed, Aaron. I'm sorry. The floor is yours.
Don't be sorry. You said it perfectly. And even if we want to buy into it, that they're one quarterback away, let's say they're one quarterback away. This ain't it. Carson, listen, I keep saying this to everybody. When are teams going to learn? You're in Philadelphia. You don't like being coached. You're mad because you got benched for Nick Foles and he won a Super Bowl, and now you can't handle all the pressure and people talking about you. So you ask to get out. You get traded to the Colts with that $100 million contract. You go back to a guy that said, you go with your coordinator, the only coordinator that you were successful with in Frank Reich, the best offensive line in football, arguably, the number one running back in football, a top defense, and you didn't make the playoffs. And the first thing you can't handle is the scrutiny that comes from your performance of Jacksonville the last week of the season, a 4.3 quarterback rating or whatever it is, QBR.
Go Jags.
And then you're not happy now. And then now all the reports come out as you weren't coachable. Your leadership sucked. When are teams going to learn that a zebra does not change its stripes? You think he's going to go to Washington, a dysfunctional franchise that hasn't had a quarterback there since I don't know, Mark Rippon? I mean, they've never had a quarterback there, and now you're going to go to this franchise and expect it to change? On Wednesday, AJ said that Washington won this deal. There's no way in hell Washington won this deal. The compensation, number one, they got rid of the contract, which helps. the second round pick, they swap second round picks. Obviously, the Colts will be the pick will be a little bit higher. The third round pick, free pick, and then the second round pick, if he plays 70% of the games, it's going to be a second round pick. That would be a win. If he doesn't play 70% of the games, guess what? It's still a win because he's not on the field. So Washington's taking another loss.
Yep.
To me, Washington would have been better off keeping Taylor Heineke over Carson Wentz. And I'm not joking about that. Carson Wentz is not it. He is not it. He's proven that over the past 3 or 4 seasons. This is very disappointing to watch. Welcome back to the NFC East. I love it as a Cowboy fan, but it's disappointing to see teams that continue to give a guy like this chances when there's other quarterbacks out there that haven't had their second chance and were just as successful as Carson Wentz, a la Mitchell Trubisky. Why not just wait and sign Mitch Trubisky? To me, at least he's going to give you the mental toughness dealing with what he dealt with in Chicago, where Carson Wentz has not. I think it's atrocious. I think it's a bad deal. And Washington's going to be in the same situations they've been in. So I expect them to draft a quarterback still. And if they don't, Washington's going to be right where they've been.
And when you get into it, just simplify it here, ladies and gentlemen. Just simplify it. The Colts are a better team around the quarterback position than the Washington football team. You got you have the number 1 running back in the NFL, one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, one of the best defenses in the NFL. Your wide receivers, sure, you might give that a slight edge to Washington just because it's one Terry McLaurin versus one Michael Pittman. That's the edge. But then everything else around it is just it's Indianapolis, and he couldn't do it in Indianapolis. So why is he the answer in Washington? It does not make any sense.
Even the defense that we last year said, they're going to be so great in Washington, wasn't very good. And then today reports come out that Landon Collins was asked to take a pay cut that he agreed to the first pay cut. They decide to trade for Carson Wentz. They go to him again, say, we need you to take another pay cut. And he says, nah. And so they release him, and now he's a free agent. So you get rid of one of the better safeties in football to bring in Carson Wentz, who's a leader or not a leader compared to other quarterbacks, and that have been complained about by teammates, by coaches. It just makes no sense. It just goes to show once again the Washington franchise. You can change your name, but you're still the same franchise.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, honestly, and they had the 11th pick in the draft. Like, I get it. Seattle now moves ahead of you. They want a quarterback.
Why not trade for Jimmy Garoppolo?
Anything. Well,
Jimmy Garoppolo is better than Carson Wentz. You want to know why? Because when AJ talked about game managers, Jimmy Garoppolo is a game manager. Yeah. Carson Wentz is not a game manager. Carson Wentz is a game thrower. He can throw you out of a game. He can throw you in a game. Like, he does have the talent, but he throws you out more than he throws you in. Jimmy Garoppolo just can't make big plays, but he can manage a game. We've watched him go to a Super Bowl. We've watched him go to an NFC Championship game and be successful when you put everything perfect around him. Everything was perfect around Carson Wentz last year. And they didn't make the playoffs. Like, they did not make the playoffs. I don't know how much more evidence they need. He's the first quarterback since Sam Bradford to be traded in 3 consecutive years or 2 consecutive years.
Not a good look. Not a good look. Tough world for Carson Wentz. Now, I guess this is the best part here. Bailey said it best. We're not going to see 1 revenge game next year. We're not going to see 2 revenge games next year. We get 3 revenge games next year for Carson Wentz. Well, put up or shut up time. I would have drafted a quarterback or traded for someone.
I'm happy. It's just 2 more wins for the Dallas Cowboys next year.
Hey, there you go. All right. That does it for our headlines that we are covering. Oh, that was a lot. That was good shit, though. I love it. We're about to get into our NFL free agency predictions, but we got to pay some bills here, ladies and gentlemen. Please don't forget, we've made it simple for you guys. Actually, this isn't the right one. This is the right one. Don't forget, head on over to Sack City Pod on all social media platforms. Look at the baby hands. Kenny Baby Hands Pickett is telling you where to go. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Sack City Pod, ladies and gentlemen. Do it. Do yourself a favor. All the best content is on there. It's good stuff. You're not going to want to miss anything that's on there. Share. Let everyone know. I mean, Kenny Baby Hands Pickett. That's it.
Washington could have drafted Kenny Pickett.
Exactly. Exactly.
I take baby hands right now. 2-glove baby hands over Carson Wentz.
Wow. 2-glove baby hands. Kenny Pickett over Carson Wentz. You heard it here
I hope
first.
Kenny
folks.
Pickett's going to shine. I hope Kenny Pickett shines, man.
I do
I'm rooting
too.
for
I
him.
do
I'm
too.
rooting
So we
for him.
can really make more fun of these baby hands. I would love to make a new baby hands graphic with whatever NFL team he's winning the MVP with. I would love to hoisting up the Lombardi Trophy with baby hands is the graphic I want to make. Make it happen, Kenny Pickett. He's gonna drop it. He's gonna drop it.
He's gonna ask for the Lombardi Trophy to be shrunk in size.
Can I get a mini size? You ever see? We've been on that TikTok grind, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to get on our TikToks at Sack City Pod, I've been seeing videos of like when there's like a little person in like the grocery store. He holds up like a Coke bottle and hands it to a tall person, and it ends up being like it's a big 8-liter whatever. It's like you know what I'm talking about. It's great.
Yes.
Good stuff. All right, let's do this damn thing. We're going to be going through our top 10 free agents here. If we have enough time, we will go through 11 through 20. If we don't have enough time,
we'll have enough time.
Okay. All right. We'll have enough time.
It's you and me. It's you and me.
Fair enough.
We don't need to spend all day on all of them.
Fair enough. We've got our top 20 free agents this year. We're going to go from top to bottom, deciding where they are going to land. And when this is all said and done, we will travel back to this episode and figure out where we went right and where we went wrong. Let's start here with 11 through 20 here. And Aaron, I'm going to be honest here. This is your list. And this, I have no problem with it. It's a great list. There's some interesting names here that I would have thought would have been higher. So not only are we going to predict these things, but I want to get your outlook on these players and why you either have them so high or so low. Let's start off with Jayon Brown, the linebacker from the Tennessee Titans, now a free agent here. Where does he land? We'll simplify this. Where is he going?
For me, it's Philadelphia. And some people probably don't even have him on this list because he hasn't been very productive in Tennessee. But the fact of the matter is he's young, he's athletic. He's a good mobile linebacker. He can go sideline to sideline. I like him in Philly. Philly doesn't have great linebackers now. TJ Edwards, Alex Singleton. They're losing Jannard Avery. I think Philly's weak up the middle when you get outside of Fletcher Cox and those big guys up front. They need some linebacker help. I think Jayon Brown's a good fit in Philly.
I like it. What other? I'm trying to. The reason why I was very, very slow to make that transition was I was trying to look at the rest of the linebackers that are in this free agent class and why you have him over. Let's just say like a Leighton Vander Esch. You're a big Cowboys guy. Why would you have him over like a Leighton Vander Esch?
Injury concerns, consistency, kind of fallen off since he started when he first came in the league. He looks slower. If you're specifically talking about Leighton Vander Esch, I'd much rather have Jayon Brown. Okay.
Fair enough. Let's go to the next one here on this list. Landon Collins. We were just talking about him, and I will start this one off here. I'm gonna give the prediction here. We'll go back and forth here. We'll go back and forth. Jayon Brown, Philadelphia. That's perfectly fine. Landon Collins is going to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I'm not gonna say that for every single pick. But I think Landon Collins lands in Jacksonville. Obviously, it's a need for the Jags. They did bring in some draft picks out of the safety position. They need a veteran on this defense other than Shaq Griffin. Great player. They need veterans. But here, let me tell you some insider news here on Landon Collins on why he's going to be a Jacksonville Jaguar. Landon Collins has a kid located here in Jacksonville. He's got family here. Landon Collins, bring him home, Jacksonville Jaguars. That's it. There's not much in-depth analysis on that. Landon Collins is going to be a Jacksonville Jaguar.
It's possible. I actually have Landon Collins going to Indianapolis. I think they upgrade the safety position, Justin Blackmon and those guys over there. They've been okay, but I think they get a Landon Collins who's a playmaker, and they got a lot of cap space. So I have him heading over to Indianapolis. I think they're in it. They got a lot of free agency in Indy. They got a lot of work to do.
Landon Collins, Jacksonville, book it. You say Indianapolis, we've booked it. Allen Robinson, you have him at 18. I would have had Allen Robinson much higher. Let's knock these wide receivers off here. There's 2 wide receivers on this list. Let's knock them both off here at once. You have Odell Beckham Jr. at 13. You have Allen Robinson at 18. This is just like what we do on our Pigskins and Pancakes show. But you have I did not understand why you have Odell Beckham Jr., who quite possibly could return as early as November of this year, could quite possibly miss the entire season and have to come back for the playoffs for a team. You have Odell Beckham Jr. at 13 and Allen Robinson at 18, who is healthy and will start the season on your team, hopefully. Why do you have why the big gap? Why OBJ over Allen Robinson?
The more I've been doing my research into Allen Robinson, he's kind of overrated. He's very much overrated. His production is not as great as one of the elite receivers in the league, which is why he's 18 on this list. There's far more productive players than he's been in his career. He's got 3,000-yard seasons. 3. I mean, he had a 1,400-yard in Jacksonville when he was 22, and that was great. Since then, his highest was 1,250, and that was 2 years ago in Chicago. Now, I get it. He hasn't played with any quarterbacks, but we've seen guys, DeAndre Hopkins and some of the elite receivers that didn't play with quarterbacks that still produced at a high level. Allen Robinson's been banged up at times. He hasn't been as consistent as I thought he was. Honestly, I just don't find the value of putting him, especially at the receiver position, of putting him higher on a free agency list. No team, I don't feel like teams should be spending upwards of $20 million to pay a guy like that.
See, I don't think that like Allen Robinson to me obviously isn't a top 10 wide receiver, but I'd say Allen Robinson is I argue he's around the top 20. He's around the top 10, maybe the back end of 20.
In the top 20, I can agree with that.
Yeah, I think that's there. And also, I mean, you talk about what he's been able to do without a quarterback, and you're right. You brought up DeAndre Hopkins. That's a fair comparison. But what did Mike Williams just get in terms of contract? I can't remember his actual deal.
Overpaid.
Okay.
Yeah, overpaid. But he's also younger, which makes a big difference. He hasn't been in the league quite as long. But yeah, he was definitely overpaid. I think Mike Williams is what, 26?
Yep. Let me see
Allen Robinson's 20.
So
Allen
Mike
Williams
Williams,
29.
Mike Williams, in terms of average per year, is the 5th highest paid wide receiver in terms of money per year, and he's making $20 million a year. $20 million a year. So Allen Robinson less than $20 million, probably around. Nah, he probably will.
Allen Robinson won't get $20 million. Allen Robinson will get around $16 million a year.
Okay, that puts him up around
because of age. I mean, age plays a factor in that.
So that puts him around Adam Thielen. That puts him around Robert Woods, Mike Evans. I mean, Brandon Cooks. I'd say the bar is Brandon Cooks level for Allen Robinson. I don't get the
overrated so that's my point. So
I don't get the overrated part though.
So overrated is, to me, maybe it's overstated. I just think he's not as good as sometimes I think we've given him credit for. He has had really good seasons a couple of times, but outside of that, it's been nothing special. So when I think of the top wide receivers getting top dollar, Allen Robinson doesn't come to mind. So and when we're talking about free agency, the wide receiver position it's very scarce. It's a deep wide receiver class. And we've seen now the wide receiver position has started to turn into the running back position where guys don't really want to pay anybody because what happens? Get Michael Thomas, get Amari Cooper, who are great players and great receivers, but never live up to those contracts.
Yeah. So PFF has the contract projection for Allen Robinson, 3 years, $45 million, which ends up being 15 per year. So that's right around where he needs to be. I think Allen Robinson ends up with a contender. Give me Allen Robinson to. I know the New England hype is out there. I don't like New England as a destination for Allen Robinson. I think with him being able to decide where he can go, I think you see Allen Robinson in. I'm going to stick with what I said in the AFC West offseason outlook. Allen Robinson is going to be a Las Vegas Raider at the end of the free agency.
I have Allen Robinson going to the Cardinals and pairing him up with DeAndre Hopkins and adding a weapon there. They lose Christian Kirk. They got Rondale Moore, who's young, but I have him going to the Cardinals there, and I have Odell Beckham returning to the Rams.
I also have that.
I think it's just a good fit, and when he's healthy, what he showed with the quarterbacks who can get him the ball, he's still explosive. he seems to be on the right track. I like Odell back with the Rams.
Man, a healthy Robert Woods, a healthy Cooper Kupp, and a healthy Odell Beckham Jr. They have the chance.
And a healthy Van Jefferson. Like, it's just they're loaded.
Yeah,
they're loaded.
they have a chance to repeat if they have that type of receiving group. So that's those two wide receivers knocked out here. Now Marcus May at 17. We both really like Marcus May, the safety from the New York Jets, now going to be a free agent. I think the Jets should have re-signed Marcus May. I will state that. I think that was a big mistake for the New York Jets to let him go. Where does Marcus May land in this year's free agency?
We brought it up on the offseason outlook. AJ thought they could use some safety help. I think it's Denver. I think Denver loses a guy like Kareem Jackson. They can use some safety help there. He said Quandre Diggs. I like Marcus May here. I think Marcus May is a good fit. He brings a physical style of play, and I do think he's coming off an injury. Maybe you can get him a little bit cheaper. They have a ton of cap space, but I do think Marcus May ends up in Denver. There's a lot of safeties out there.
There is, and we'll definitely talk about the biggest name safety in just a little bit. I think it's Baltimore, and I listed Baltimore as a landing spot for a Tyrann Mathieu, but this is gonna come back and bite me in the ass because now I'm gonna have to want to decide on where I put Tyrann Mathieu. But I think Baltimore is a perfect spot for Marcus May. They don't have to pay that much, and they get a veteran guy on their team. Obviously not a big time veteran like a Tyrann Mathieu, but Marcus May has been in the league for a little bit now. I think he lands in Baltimore. Go with Baltimore.
I like it.
The guy you just brought up, Quandre Diggs, Seattle Seahawks, former Seattle Seahawks cornerback. You're chomping at the bit for this one.
No, it's funny because I actually think he's going to the Jets. I think they're swapping. They're letting Marcus May walk, and I think they're going to go after Quandre Diggs. They obviously still need safety help. Robert Saleh is still a defensive-minded head coach. He's going to look for defense. He wants to build his team with that defensive foundation. I think Quandre Diggs is a veteran. He brings leadership. Players love to play with him. He's always around the football. I think Quandre Diggs makes sense for the Jets with letting Marcus May go. Whatever that fractured relationship has been with Marcus May, I think they rebuild that with Quandre Diggs.
Okay, fair enough. I like it. Next up on the list, Hassan Reddick, former Carolina Panthers linebacker, former Arizona Cardinals linebacker. He had a big year with the Arizona Cardinals, got him a chance with Carolina. Now he's on the market again. Oh man, this one's a tough one. On where to put Hassan Reddick, because really, I mean, just about every. I'd say there's a good market for linebackers. There's a lot of good linebackers in this class, and there's a lot of teams that need linebackers. Where does Hassan Reddick land?
You're gonna notice a running theme from my list. I have Hassan Reddick going to the Denver Broncos. I think the arms race is ready to go here. Denver has a lot of money to spend. They got some free agencies, and they're not very good up front when it comes to the defensive side of the football, especially in the middle level there. They lose Alexander Johnson. They don't have really any interior linebackers. They put him on the outside with Bradley Chubb on rushing. I think Hassan Reddick's a good fit there. He's a playmaker. He gets sideline to sideline. He brings a little bit of a different versatility at the position, which most linebackers can't do. He can cover, he can rush, he can, play the run. I like Hassan Reddick there. I think he's a versatile player, and I think Denver is a good spot for him. You'll notice a running theme of this arms race
of Denver. Of every team in the AFC West just making moves after moves after moves. That makes sense. That makes sense. I'm gonna go with a team that did make a trade, but it wasn't for Denver and it wasn't Seattle. It's the Indianapolis Colts. I think the Indianapolis Colts really need linebacker help. They did not. They were at the bottom of the league in terms of sacks per game last year. They were not good at the linebacker position, and I mean, I think Hassan Reddick fills a good hole for the Indianapolis Colts, and now they have the cap space because they don't have Carson Wentz to deal with. Hassan Reddick to the Indianapolis Colts. Right? Are you right? Are you writing? Is the notepad out?
No, I'll write it down when I.
You do all the clipping anyways.
When I review the show,
you do so much work on the show. It's unreal. Next on the list, Devondre Campbell, linebacker with the Arizona Cardinals. Really, I should have grouped these linebackers together, but I didn't. Not the he's not even with the Arizona Cardinals. That picture is not even right. He was with the Green Bay Packers, former linebacker for the Green Bay Packers. Where does Devondre Campbell land?
This might be something that people don't agree with me on because they've always been pretty deep at this position. But I really like Devondre Campbell in Pittsburgh. I think he just fits. I think he's a Steeler. I think he's a Pittsburgh type of player. He had a really good year last year, probably earned himself, a significant payday. I think Pittsburgh needs to still kind of address that defense. We talk about their offensive line, and maybe, the quarterback position and offensive line are more what they want to focus on. But I think getting a Devondre Campbell and then also some pieces at the cornerback level are going to be important for them. They want to still build around their defense, especially with the young quarterback, you assume. I think Devondre Campbell would fit nicely in Pittsburgh, and I think there's a chance they get him.
I'm going to go with an NFC East spot, not the New York Jets. I'm going to go with the New England Patriots, team that's just
the AFC East.
Or AFC East. Jesus Christ. Oof. AFC East team in the New England Patriots. I think that obviously they just got rid of Kyle Van Noy. I think that Devondre Campbell is going to be able to bring in a good. I don't think he's gonna like get a massive payday. I think this is maybe something like a 2-year, 3-year deal. But the New England Patriots are going to be they've lost Kyle Van Noy. They could be losing Dante Hightower. I mean, this is a team that needs help with the linebacker position. They need to keep building to try and compete with the Buffalo Bills in that AFC East, and they land Devondre Campbell. Boom. I'm gonna get all these right. I'm just letting you know that I'm gonna get all of these right, and it's just gonna be great. It's gonna be great. Last but not least, we'll knock these two bad boys out here. Darius Williams and Stefan Gilmore, back-to-back cornerbacks in your rankings here. I am sticking with my prediction of Stefan Gilmore going to the Houston Texans, and if you missed these shows that we've had, they're beautifully clipped and easy to watch on YouTube out now at the Sac City Pod. But we gave the outlook for the Houston Texans. We gave the outlook for the Detroit Lions. Darius Williams to the Detroit Lions and Stefan Gilmore to the Houston Texans fills big-time needs for those two teams. And I think those are two younger teams that could use that veteran-type leadership from a Stefan Gilmore and a Super Bowl experience from a Darius Williams.
I'm with you on the Darius Williams, the familiarity with Brad Holmes. I think that's a good fit in Detroit with the defense that needs help. So I also had him going to Detroit. Stefan Gilmore, I don't think there's a chance in hell he goes to Houston. Late in his career, I think he wants to go somewhere where he has the chance to win. But I think it's more to me, it's more about relationships. Stefan Gilmore has talked a lot about Mike Tomlin, and I think losing Joe Hayden, I think Pittsburgh, again, here's Pittsburgh, is a good spot for a Stefan Gilmore. They're losing Ahkello Witherspoon too. He's a free agent. They're nickelback. No Joe Hayden. Obviously, you can throw Stefan Gilmore in there to line up on the opposite side of Cameron Sutton. Steelers defense, it goes together. I like Stefan Gilmore in Pittsburgh.
Good spot. That is a great spot. They desperately need cornerbacks as well. They are really in need of some cornerback help. So that would help them out a lot. Your 1 through 10. This is your top 10 big board in terms of free agents here. And you put a former Cowboy in at number 10. Who else knows Randy Gregory better than the Cowboys fan himself? Where does he land? And really, why is he? I mean, this is realistically out of this entire list, him and Chandler Jones is the best pass rushers in this free agent class. Randy Gregory brings that to the table. Where does he land? And tell us about Randy Gregory.
When Randy Gregory, in my best Stephen A impression, is off the weed, he is an elite pass rusher. He can get to the quarterback. He's proven it time and time again. He just has to stay out of trouble. Dallas has done a good job to kind of sticking with him to allow him to kind of overcome those immaturity issues. I think this is a guy that wants to get paid. I do. I don't think there's a chance in hell Dallas gets him back. I think he wants to get paid. I think he's going to end up on a team that's young, that doesn't win. I have him going to the New York Jets. I think the New York Jets get a pass rusher with Robert Saleh, a guy that just, you tell him, go get the quarterback like he did with Nick Bosa. I see Randy Gregory in a Jets uniform real soon.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm doubling down on that one with the New York Jets because that makes a lot of sense. A guy like that wanting to get the bag, and then it's just, I don't want to. Randy Gregory, he could have it all figured out and play every game for the rest of his career and not have to go through any off-field problems. But it always just seems like those bad teams, those rebuild teams, always are more willing to take those shots on those players that have those kind of problems. And I mean, I don't even want to say the Shaq Lawson pick. Shaq Lawson had no problems or anything like that. But it's like those type of players that that want the bag. That they are going to get the bag, and it's those teams that are at the bottom.
They have a ton of
cap space. Yeah, and have the most cap space to be able to make it happen.
You're getting a guy that has a super high ceiling. Like, he could be one of the best pass rushers in football. He already is when he's on the field. So, I just think it's a good spot for him.
Yeah, I agree. Next up on the list, you have Brandon Scherff, former Washington Commanders. Scherff? I said Sheriff?
Brandon
Scherff. It's Scherff. Brandon Scherff, former Washington Commanders guard. I don't want to do it. I'm not going to. Let me hear what you're saying first. Because honestly, I really want the Jacksonville Jaguars to make a push for him, but I don't want to say the Jacksonville Jaguars land him. So where does Brandon Scherff go?
In the offseason outlook, I said Pittsburgh should call and make that call to get Brandon Scherff. I thought that was a slam dunk for them. I still do think they should, but I actually think he lands in Cincinnati. I think it makes perfect sense. They got a huge cap space. They obviously need to address the offensive line. He's the best interior lineman that's left from the guard position, I should say. I think it makes sense for them to go after him. I have him going to Cincinnati.
Yeah, I like that as well. I mean, it's for Cincinnati here. It's like this is where they need to go. They need to go all offensive line. I'll be different here. I am going to go with the Los Angeles Chargers. And they're a team that they've went offensive line the past few years. They last year you saw them get a Corey Linsley from the Green Bay Packers, but this year they lost Brian Bulaga. They lost Brian Bulaga. He retired, and they could really fill that spot there. They're letting go of Michael Schofield. This is a spot. This is a hole for the Los Angeles Chargers that needs to be filled. And again, you've brought it up many times on the show. Everyone's jockeying for position. They want to protect Justin Herbert. That's a big time priority for the Los Angeles Chargers, and they land Brandon Scherff. It's maybe my wild card pick. Wild card. Oh man, here it is. This is the one I really wanted to talk about. At number 8, you have Bobby Wagner, and this is a player that it did come as a surprise to a lot of people that he was released from the Seattle Seahawks. Spent a lot of time there. Reports came out today that the Seattle Seahawks didn't even have the decency to call him and let him know. Like, it was somebody else just letting him know that he got released, which is really shitty. But Bobby Wagner is going to be an impact player for somebody out there and be a big-time difference maker. I'm assuming he's going to some AFC West team.
He's not.
Oh,
he's going to the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, wow.
There are already reports that the Dallas Cowboys have already called to talk to his agent and are waiting, to be able to officially make offers, reunite him with Dan Quinn. Remember Dan Quinn's connection to Seattle. Leighton Vander Esch is gone. You line him up in the middle there with Micah Parsons, who they really want to use more as a rusher because his ability to get the quarterback. And now you don't have to worry about that middle linebacker position. I think it's a match made in heaven, depending on how much he's going to cost. Right. That's the biggest thing with Dallas right now, is making a splash in free agency with cost. But I have a feeling Jerry Jones is the master of making things work. I have a feeling Bobby Wagner is going to be a Dallas Cowboy this season.
Wow.
Even if it's only a 1-year deal.
Wow. I like that. I don't like double. I'm sorry for taking your picks.
No, that's the point.
That is a good pick, and I do like it. And I honestly, I scrolled through Twitter to see what the Bobby Wagner conversation has been all about today. And it was Ed Werder that came out and said the Cowboys have contacted free agent linebacker Bobby Wagner and expressed their interest in having him play for Dan Quinn, who coached him. Yeah, those one of the those are layups. Like, when there's that type of connection with these players, like a Dan Quinn has with Bobby Wagner, it's like a layup to say, okay, that's where he's going to go.
You just hope a team that doesn't have $80 million in cap space doesn't throw just a bag at him, because then it's hard to turn down.
That's true. That is true. But I mean, look at the people who have, I guess Cincinnati maybe could throw the bag at him.
Anybody with a bag could throw it at him, and he might.
That's true.
Take it. Money talks.
Money does talk. Chandler Jones, the pass rusher from the Arizona Cardinals, wanted desperately out of Arizona.
I'm going to tackle Ryan Jensen and Chandler Jones together since we're.
Oh, are you? Okay. Go for it.
Two AFC teams I think need to be addressed here. We talked about Ryan Jensen to Tennessee. I think that makes sense, replacing Ben Jones. So I'm just going to let that one go quickly. But Chandler Jones, I don't think nobody's really talking about it. I think he goes to Miami. I think Miami, South Beach, good spot. You know, whatever the tax situation is down there, you get to play New England twice where he used to play. They talked about reuniting in New England, but I think Chandler Jones is in Miami this year. They could use pass rush help, rebuilding that team. They have a good foundation there. I like him to step in and help that defense with a good back end already, that they have in the secondary.
I'm going to go with a team that we haven't really talked a lot about as of late. I have two teams that I want to consider for Chandler Jones. And I think
you're pulling your best AJ pressure right now. You know that, right?
I know I'm having a hard time. Here. I'm really having a hard time. I will go with the Denver Broncos. I'm going to go with Chandler Jones to the Denver Broncos. Something I just saw, and I wanted to get to before I made this pick. There were them and the Buffalo Bills were the two teams I really had in mind because Buffalo needs a pass rush. But here's your connection: Chandler Jones played college ball. Syracuse. That offensive coordinator in his last 2 years was Nathaniel Hackett.
You're reaching.
I picked Denver once and now I'm reaching. Unbelievable.
You're reaching on the connection.
I am. But hey, Chandler Jones to Denver.
Denver is definitely a destination he could go to.
But my reasoning was a little stretch. That's what it was. Either way, he wants to win a Super Bowl. That's the other thing, and he could be very dangerous with the Denver Broncos. And I will agree with you. Ryan Jensen to the Tennessee Titans makes a whole lot of sense. His former teammate, though, Carlton Davis. This is the Jets. Carlton Davis to the Jets just really rings to me here. Carlton Davis to the New York
49ers. 49ers.
Okay.
Need secondary help. One of the better corners, not being talked about a lot. 49ers. Jets make sense, but if the Niners offer him money, I think he goes there.
Let's go with two teammates here. Marcus Williams, the safety, and Teron Armstead, the tackle. Armstead's going to Cincinnati. That's where I have. That one's I didn't want to put Brandon Sheriff there, which they could get both of them. They have the cap space. But I think Teron Armstead is destined for the New Orleans or the Cincinnati Bengals. And I will go with Marcus Williams. I'll leave Marcus Williams on the table here. Where do you think Teron Armstead and Marcus Williams land?
Teron Armstead, I actually have going to the Colts. The Eric Fisher's gone. They're losing Mark Lewinsky. That offensive line is not what it was last year. I have Teron Armstead with Indy, and then I have Marcus Williams to the Bears. Ooh. Younger safety. The defense got old in Chicago. I think they start to kind of revamp that. They lost a couple of pieces back on their back end. They had to let go, so I think Marcus Williams ends up in Chicago.
Okay. I will say, you know what? I say Marcus Williams lands with the New York Jets. The Jets are a team that always
the Jets and the Jaguars. Everybody's on the Jets and the Jaguars.
Hey, I just wish that the Jags were more talked about on my list, but they're not. I'll say Marcus Williams to New York Jets. Rounded out, J.C. Jackson, Tyrann Mathieu, the top two players in this free agent class. Where do they land? I think Tyrann Mathieu comes back to Kansas City.
That's exactly where I have him. I have him right back to KC. He's not going anywhere. I think he'll test the market, but I think he'll realize what he has in KC is special, and I think he stays.
Yeah, I think that's the case. Now, J.C. Jackson, top guy on your list. Where does he go?
To me, this is a slam dunk, easiest pick for me. We talked about the AFC West, those receivers, those weapons, those quarterbacks. He goes to the Los Angeles Chargers. They are a team that could use some secondary help against those quarterbacks. I have him landing in LA. J.C. Jackson, number one free agent. He's going to be a Charger.
He's going to be a Las Vegas Raider. You got it all wrong in the AFC West. He's going to be a Las Vegas Raider. The connection with Josh McDaniels had no connection really, but he did it anyways. J.C. Jackson to the Las Vegas Raiders. That does it for our top 20 free agent prediction. Don't forget, we'll be live again on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, right here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at the Sac City Pod. Be sure to check out all of our social media platforms, including TikTok, where you can get that exclusive content. Aaron, any last words in the last 15?
Nope. Great show. Fun and Games Friday. We'll see you Monday.
There it is. Let's see how many we can get right. Monday, we predict, or we go through our offseason outlook for the AFC and NFC East, and that does it. We'll see you then.
Peace out.
We know we were a much better team and we came up and represented ourselves.